in the eyes of someone who's looking, things should get better. Now, maybe not to somebody who's not looking, but in the eyes of somebody who's looking, these answers will cause light. They will cause things to become better, right? Now, if you're having to think hard about this, I'm not going to incriminate you, but I'm just going to say you're not experiencing this like you should. If you are experiencing it like you should, you're going, yep, that's it. Makes sense. Perfect. Happens all the time, right? So again, I'm not trying to incriminate you. I'm just saying you need to get on the ball if you're having to think about this and if it's causing, because in pockets, this is borne out every day of the week, 24/7 for somebody. The favor of God in their lives, right? I don't mean the favor of the world. The spirit of the world has its own favor. When you do things according to the pattern of the world, you're rewarded, okay? And I'm just going to shoot straight with you. Many in the body of Christ do things right along according to the pattern of the world, and they're rewarded, and then they turn around to everybody and say, God just blesses me. We're just so blessed. Listen, they either believe it or they know it's not true, but they call themselves a Christian, so they have to give thanks to God, because otherwise they'd have to give thanks to the world. Right? And I find that most of them don't know. They really believe that God's doing it. Because they confess Christ, they think, well, God must be overruling all the other right stuff I'm doing according to the world, right? And ultimately it's God. But we know the world blesses their own. Jesus said it, didn't he? He said if you were of the world, they'd love you. He said it. He said if you were with them, they'd love you. What that means is they're going to give you a job. They're going to take care of you no matter what happens. They're going to make sure that the best they can that you prosper, right? If you go along with them, they're going to do those things. Right? He said, but as it is, you're with me, and they persecuted me, and they killed me. So that's what they're going to try to do to you. So it's important to differentiate the world taking care of its own and the Lord taking care of his own, and the mixture of the church that's still very connected to the world, being blessed by the world and saying it's God. Because that's an illusion that draws people to the world side. When the world, there's only one spirit of the world, right? He's called the prince of the powers of the air. You know who that is, right? A lot of fence sitters want to believe that you can be in the middle and you can pretty much like Jesus, but still kind of. But the Bible never says that. The Bible only speaks of the children of God and the children of Belial. That's it. It doesn't talk of any middle people. So we tend to have our own religion. We tend to create our own tree based on the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, us being our own God. And we like to believe that there's this middle ground you can be in that can pull from Jesus when necessary, but still be over here. But that's false. That's a deception. That's the great lie. Right? I'm not saying, mind you, I've not mentioned sin. I'm talking about what you draw from, what you worship, what your heart desires, okay? What you see as your source, right? Because none of us are going to be perfect and not miss it. That doesn't put you in one camp or the other. We talked about that last week. What puts you in one camp or the other is who do you adore? Who do you worship? That's the way Jesus taught. And who you worship is who you serve. Right? And there's no gray area in who you worship is who you serve, right? And again, not that you can't miss the mark, but who overall do you serve? Who is your heart bent towards? Who are you listening to? It's funny. The Bible boils it down really to regard. Who do you regard? Before you make a decision, who do you ask first? Do you ask the world or do you ask God? When something really good happens in your life, who do you think first? You think all your friends and your boss and everybody that did it for you? Or do you stop right first in your heart and say, God, thank you, you did this? Yes. See, it's really in a person. It's in a person, So